Sharing our stories makes us stronger and brings us closer together. So, here's to the strong women. May we know them. The podcast. I'm your host, Meghan Lucas. I'm a coach, published author, and a speaker, but more so, I like to create spaces for the messy parts of our stories to be celebrated and supported because we are stronger together. We are kicking off Season 2 strong with Lindsey Barnett as she shares about coming home to yourself, discovering that inner wisdom. Please note that this podcast briefly touches on eating disorders and may be emotionally challenging for some audience members. If you or someone you know is struggling with an eating disorder, please call the ANAD hotline. That's Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders hotline at 1-888-375-7767 or visit their website. The link to their website is in the show notes below. Welcome, everyone, to the May We Know Them podcast, to the live recording of it. I'm so excited to have you here today with my guest, Lindsey Barnett. This is going to be a really awesome conversation. Just some housekeeping up front. We do have a live audience here, which is really exciting. So if you're listening to the recording, you missed it. Come on now, get on to the next one. Really excited to have just an organic conversation and make some magic here with that. I invite everyone to, as you're listening to Lindsey share her story here, to have a pen and paper nearby and just jot down anything that jumps out at you. It might be something that you really resonate with, which can be really powerful to know that you're not alone, just to have that kind of validation. It might be something that makes you a little uncomfortable, maybe challenges you. And hey, that's okay too. Maybe you needed to hear what she's come here to say today. This conversation might resonate today. It might resonate weeks from now. My ask is that we keep the conversation going, come back, make a comment on the episode. Let's stay in this because I think it's some powerful stuff that Lindsey's going to share today because she is powerful, period. Let me tell you a little bit about Lindsey. Lindsey and I met, it's been like 5 years?
Was it 2018, 19?
19? That's awful. I can't believe it's been that long. We both went through a leadership coach training program together. That's where we met. Anybody who does any kind of transformative work, it's messy. It's not meant to be done alone. And we were in each other's corner, still in your corner. Lindsey she is such a beacon of light. She is, like, words that come to mind when I think of Lindsey is soul. Like, she's just got so much soul to her. She's so kind, just such a big heart and a badass. And we're going to hear about that a little bit today and all the things. So welcome, Lindsey. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into your story here. So with any kind of breakthrough, anything, any big aha in life, like, it doesn't just happen. Usually there's some things that are going on in our life up until a certain point, and we're like, wait a minute, or I don't think so, or whatever it is. We'll find out what it was for you, Lynn. So why don't you catch us up to speed around some things that were going on for you in your life before we had this aha around, I'll let you tell us what it was around. So go ahead.
Yeah. So whenever we talked about doing this, I immediately was like, I need to make an appointment with my therapist to talk through what I'm going to talk about. So that's what I did first. Made an appointment with my therapist, Brittany, who is my newest therapist, who is also a part of this. Is you're never going to make much progress if you're talking to the wrong people. I went to the wrong therapist for a long time and finally found my way to the correct type of therapist, the correct forms of therapy. And Brittany is phenomenal, amazing. We went through grad school at the same time, so just love her to death. And she was like, let's write out a timeline of kind of like, she wanted to go all the way back to where, like, I first became even aware of my body, but like that's so far back. But where things really, I guess, started to get like messy and sticky for me was around like 17. So that was 10 years ago. And ever since then, just been like internally battling with myself about all kinds of things when it came to my identity and who I was to other people and things like that. But kind of like where it all started. And I hate that majority of like women's stories goes back to body image, but that was kind of where everything really started for me. And I even hate that I feel like it's cliche. Like I hate that I have that feeling around it, but you just hear about it so much and it's such an issue. And we we don't talk about it enough, but it's also talked about the wrong way too much. And it's just icky within itself. But senior year of high school, became a woman, body changed. I didn't like it, didn't know how to handle it. And my mom's on this call, but she helped me as much as she could with my parents' generation. I mean, any generation before ours, the knowledge on nutrition, overall wellness, body image, and all that just wasn't there. The 90s was a very unhealthy place to be, just mentally. And the things that people were doing to lose weight was not the best. And that was just the culture that my parents grew up on. And especially like my dad was in the bodybuilding scene. So his views on weight loss and everything were very skewed and very specific. And none of that was ever pushed on me, but there just wasn't an understanding of kind of what I was going through at the time. So my parents helped me as much as they could, like as much advice, knowledge they could give me. But even back then, like when I was 17, that was 2012, 13, even like the knowledge available to us online and other things just also wasn't that great. So I was doing bizarre things my senior year of high school and like beginning of college to try and lose weight. And like just I fell really hard into fitness in college, but not in a healthy way. And that became like part of my identity in college. So I really held on to it hard because, again, it was my online platform identity. It was my identity at school with my family, with my friends. Like it just became my identity. But internally, I was like screaming. Yeah. I was so unhappy in the fitness industry. But looked like I was happy on the outside. Like there was just a lot of internal push and pull that just went into my 20s. And then stepped out of fitness, moved on to higher ed, which I'm in now and I love, but was still kind of in fitness and was just lost. And that's when I decided to do the coaching program in DC. And when I was up there with you guys, was still just like turmoil internally, just no good things happening.
Which that program was going to bring up anyway, because it's inviting you to face that. So yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was white-knuckling everything. Like, and even in the program, I was walking around with the hammer and I was just smashing shit left and right. Just going through life being like, if I couldn't work my way through it, I was just going to destroy it, implode it. Just that was how I was going through it. And giving myself absolutely no grace and no like peace within it, just white knuckling my way through it. And relationships, whether it was romantic, family, friendships, I mean, everything. Even when I was meeting you guys, like I was still just white knuckling my way through getting to know you, all of you. And I was exhausted and came out of the program with a lot of knowledge and healed a lot within the program, but still the root of it was still just not, because I was trying to fix everything. I was trying to use all those tools and again, white knuckling so hard to try and fix everything that was going on, even through therapy and everything else, fitness, nutrition, just all of it, just white knuckling. And during all this, I developed a pretty awful eating disorder. I was extremely restricting, extreme binging, but always binge eating, like with majority of people who do this in private, away from anybody, because there's a lot of embarrassment, a lot of shame that goes along with it. And like to the point when I was dating a guy in college that I lived with, like I would restrict myself all day, would wait until we went to bed, sneak out of bed, go downstairs and like eat stuff on the kitchen floor of my house. Like it like just not a lot of shame around it, just wasn't good. Was never purging at that point. Purging was only an issue for a week for me in my mid 20s. Mm-hmm. Where I was restricting, binging, and then purging. And that's where my breaking point was, because I was scared. Yeah. And I expressed with some of my family and close friends that I was like, I'm afraid of this current situation that I'm in. I don't know how to handle it. So that's when I seeked a different therapist. And at that time, I took a complete 6 months off of any type of physical activity. I wasn't even walking. Anybody who knows me, love a walk. And so I took complete rest from all things fitness, nutrition, all wellness, all of it. And then dove really deep into therapy, had sessions 1, sometimes 2 times a week, trying to work my way through that. And I realized very quickly that my favorite analogy is, and this is not science backed up, this is just a Lindsey brain analogy, is that we all came from hunters and gatherers. And like that's where we originated from. We were all hunters and gatherers. I so badly wanted to be a hunter. I so badly wanted to be full speed all the time, fighting to the last grit of it. The hyper independence inside of me was just like, I'm a hunter, like I'm a go all the time, high intensity. I'm a gatherer. I am a slow pace, love my body through it. I'm going to stop over here and I'm going to pick some of this. I'm going to stop over here and I'm going to pick some of this. If somebody else needs me to help them pick something, I'm going to help them pick it. Like, and that comes with the way I live life. And even with the new relationship I've built with exercising is like, I go to the gym now and I don't even shower before I go to work because I don't get sweaty. Like I go in, I take it easy. I pick stuff up. I put it down, like gather. And that was a very like deep breath moment for me, realizing that I didn't need to hunt anymore. Like giving myself permission not to hunt and just to gather was the biggest relief and just the biggest inhale that I think I've taken in a really long time. And just realizing that like shit ain't that deep. It's not that serious. Like, let me go pick some berries. Like, like just, and the entire breakthrough I didn't realize was that it was realizing that I didn't need to try so hard. Like, if I just sit down and let my body tell me when it wants to move, when it wants to eat, what it wants to eat, when it's thirsty, when it's in a bad mood, and me just being okay with it and being like, yeah, girl, you're in a bad mood today. Let me rock with you for a second. Oh, you want some ice cream? Let's go get some ice cream. Just a very, just trusting that my body's going to tell me what it wants and what it needs, and not feeling bad about it, because guilt was my biggest my biggest was the guilt and the shame I had around who I was. Like it fed my not enough, and my not enough still finds different ways to work its way into my life, but it fed it. And finally just realizing that again, like it just ain't that deep. Like life's not as difficult as we make it so hard.
Well, because you were sharing like the things you were going through, but then there's like the double layer judgment sandwich of like, here's the things I'm going through, and here's how I feel about the things I'm going through. Like I can't believe, I can't believe I'm whatever it is, whatever that voice is saying to you, around that. So like, yeah, the double judgment. It can just be what's going on.
Yeah.
And you can just relate to it as okay, so what? It's so funny when you mentioned the hunter and gatherers. Immediately, like I could see, like you're such a gatherer. Like that's so your being. Just like for me, my experience of you is very just like kind of go with the flow. Like that's how you make me feel over here, is like that calming. Like we're just floating down the river. We're not running, trying to chase, trying to get all the things. Like it's just, hey, we're here. So I'm so glad, like that analogy is powerful, and I'm so glad like you were able to come into it and realize that's you, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's so clearly you.
Yeah. And some people, and I'm not at all shaming people who are hunters, because we need them, obviously. That's how we survived as a society. Like if you're a hunter, I got you on the gather side, you go hunt. But I want to make it very clear, I'm not shaming hunters whatsoever. I'm just strong on the gather side. So
yeah. And it's just coming into like, it's not finding the thing that you are, but it's actually just like, oh, like it's here already. I don't have, you don't have to go become a gatherer. You like already were that energy. So really it's just coming home to, for anyone, wherever you're at, it's like just that acceptance of who you are, what you bring. I hear in this too, Lindsay, like there was nothing to fix, like maybe like not, at least not to the point that that voice in your head or whatever was trying to tell you to. And then even that with like the urgency, like fix it now, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all of that. All of that. What I love too is that you took everything out, but that doesn't mean it's been out for like you now you're putting it back in on purpose.
Yeah.
And in a whole different way. That's the really cool thing about breakthroughs is you can maybe take some of the same actions you were doing, but when you've shifted the foundation of where you're choosing from,
yeah,
totally.
Yeah. I definitely wanted to come back to it because I'm such a routine person. Yeah. And that to me is a very important part of my routine. Like movement is a very important part of it. But it was coming back to it restructured. And I started from a very low level. Like I started doing like exercise videos, which I'd never really done before, but just mindless, didn't have to think about it, and just kind of restructured myself back on top of it and finally found a version of it that I like love to do that makes me feel good. Like I never go in hating my way through it, which I was doing a lot of the time before. I'm here because I hate me. I'm here because I want to change me. Now I'm here because, it feels good while I do this and my life feels a little incomplete without it, it's from a different place.
Way different, way different. I think a lot of people will be able to resonate with that. Yeah, sure, for sure. So tell us a little bit about what life's like now, having had this aha, having come kind of turned inward, trusting yourself, trusting your body's going to tell you when it's thirsty, what it needs. I'm all for the ice cream here and there. Like I co-sign that 100%. Like what's life been like for you since then?
So, and I hope that a lot of like my friends and family can feel this too, is that, and I have some close friends and family because I moved. So a part of this too was I was living in like a larger city when I was going through the thick of all of this. Like when I say I ran away from home, I ran away from small town life to large town life because I felt like that was going to be the fix. Like I felt like I needed to live in a city because again, I was a hunter, like I needed fast pace. And I left the large city life. I'm not going to use any names of cities because I don't want to trash any cities. Some people really love them, but I left the large city and moved back home. So I was around family a lot more. I was around close friends a lot more. And I hope even they can feel the shift in how my connections with people, like when we're in person, I felt like before I was very scattered, like you were talking to me, but I felt like I wasn't there. And I felt like other people could feel like you were talking to me, but I just wasn't there because I was internally fighting with myself. When I say I was fighting with myself constantly, like I was thinking about what I was eating next, what I was currently eating, what I had just ate constantly. Like it took
probably judging yourself on top of it. Yeah.
It took up 90% of my mental space.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 10% was telling my right arm to do this and my left arm to do this and for myself to breathe. Like it was like there was no space for me to cultivate anything else. And so I feel like one of the biggest shifts is I feel so present when I'm with people now. Like I feel like I'm in the conversation and now I have room for you to talk, for me to hear you, for me to take it in, process it, and then give you a really valuable response, which I feel like I didn't have the ability to do before. Or I would hang out with people and I would be internally fighting so hard that I would just be in an awful mood all the time, majority of the time. And I know my mom's probably like, yes, because I would just be like, I would hang out sometimes and I would hate, again, like I would be in a mood and I would judge myself for being in a mood. But I'm like, no wonder why I was in a mood. Like if you were constantly bickering, imagine constantly bickering with a clone of you all the time, you'd be in a bad mood too. Like, and I hated myself for being in a bad mood. Like it was just, so that was a very big transition. And like, I hate to bring it back to like body image and all that, but like before I was at what I would consider to be like it was an unhealthy weight for me. Mm-hmm. Like I kind of felt like I was in a different body. Like it didn't feel like my body. Like I felt very disconnected. You can look at old pictures of me and I was just so like puffy and inflamed. Like I was just uncomfortable. And through this, I haven't been on a diet in, I don't know, a year and a half. I haven't been on a strict workout regimen in that long either. And like the inflammation and the swelling in my body has gone down so much. I've also started taking vitamins and doing stuff like that too. But my body has changed significantly in a way that like that I never even thought was possible for me. Like I never thought like the body I'm living in now, I never thought it was possible. Like having cheekbones, never thought it was possible. You know, like just things like that where it's like I so that shift was very big for me. It's not the main thing, but I think it's also because I feel so much better on the inside, my outward body shows. I'm just the type of person where if I'm miserable on the inside, you're going to be able to see it on the outside. That's just how I function. Some people aren't like that, but that's just how I am. So that transition was very extreme and very good. But, and also like I currently moved to a new state, new city, started a new job, and that all happened very quickly. And I don't think I don't think I would have had the confidence to apply for the job that I got regardless. But there was also a shift in like I trust myself now. I trust the decisions that I'm making, and I've been able to follow those decisions instead of constantly being like, no, I need to stay over here because it's safe. Like, what if you don't make the right decision? Like, you don't need to go over there. You don't need to do that, because there was just no trust there. And so now the trust I have in myself is, I mean, far beyond what I'd ever had before. And like just how at peace I am about everything. Like I decided I applied for a job, got the job, took the job within like a week or two, and then moved 2 weeks later. So it was very like quick. And I've been very at peace about it, like not super stressed out about it. Cause again, like I'm happy, I'm comfortable. There's so much more mental space for me that processing all of it has been a lot easier. And it definitely wouldn't have been possible. And moving probably wouldn't have been as enjoyable for me if I wouldn't have been in like my current headspace.
Because when you're not tapped into that trust, then that's when we just start overthinking like crazy, which just keeps us in this space of indecision. And then, the time to make a decision is coming closer, the urgency, the pressure, like it all goes up, and then like, panic. Yeah.
Or just like in the program, we have all these cakes baking, but none of them made it to the oven. So we just have all of these random cakes just in the kitchen.
Making a mess. Yeah.
Never completing anything.
Yeah. Never completing anything. Yeah. Yeah. Trust is I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy you've gotten to this point, because like, the trust in yourself it's not just that like you're going to make the right decisions, right? But it's also trusting that if you don't, you're going to figure it out. If life happens, you're going to figure it out. Like there's such a grounding in that. It's like having both feet firmly planted on the floor. All right, life, bring it. Like, let's make some stuff happen. Let's see what you got. And I'm here, and we're gonna do this. So yeah, I'm so proud of you.
And if it doesn't work, we'll just redirect.
Yep. And knowing that not only that you can do that, but that if you don't know how to do that, you've got the people you can turn to. Like, it's just like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Yep. We'll figure it out. Awesome. Well, at this point in our conversation, I'd like to invite anybody who's here listening live, if there's something that Lindsey has shared that has just hit you, or that you feel like I need to say this, I invite you to come off mute and just share what's on your mind, on your heart.
I was finishing college, completely burned out. Had spent a few days. I mean, I was living in New England at the time. Had spent a few days with some friends in DC. Walked back drove home, walked back into my apartment, looked left, looked right, said, I don't want to be here. And they turned around and moved to DC the next day. So, I just want to share that similarity of what you had spoken of.
We can do that, for all of us who get stuck in indecision and overthink. You have their permission to change your mind.
Always.
I went on long-term leave from my job at a time when I wasn't being appreciated for all that I was doing over and above, time and tasks and everything. My family needed me. And the fear of a 32-year career and just up and walking away mid-year. I was working in a school. It was terrifying. And at the same time, at that point in time, my brain couldn't take much more. My body couldn't take much more. And I just, like, the switch flipped and I went, okay, what do I need to do? I'm out of here, but I've got to jump through the right hoops so that it's done paperwork wise the way that it needed to be.
Right.
Never in a million years would I have thought that I would have ended a 32-year career by walking out the door mid-year. And somebody wrote that chapter without telling me. And it just, I hit that point in time and just went, I'm not quite sure where this is going to take me, but I know that where I am right now is not good for, it's not good for me. It's not good for my family. It's not good for anything that I'm connected to. And so something's got to change, and I got to, pick myself up and make it happen. Mm-hmm. So, similarly, and I'm very much of the planner and, the long-term career in the school system and all of that. And, everything is, you've got your calendar and you're organized and all of that. And all of a sudden I just threw it all up in the air and said, something's got to change. And we're taking a really big step and not knowing where the other foot's going to land. Mm-hmm. And I did.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Super brave. I mean, and sometimes we hit those moments, right? Like, Lindsey, I'm sure you can resonate. Like, we just know whatever we're supposed to be doing or whatever's next, it's not this. And as long as we know it's not this, then we have a direction at least, or at least, it's just the process of learning what doesn't work. I wonder if being super attached to how we think it should go, or like that long-term plan that we've always envisioned, or, is like part of the white-knuckling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, I'm a very, like, if something isn't going not the way I want it to go, but if things are not going well, I'm going to take fast, quick, hard action to immediately switch up the pace. Which, just like side note, which is why dating is so hard for me, because it's like, it involves another person. Like, I can't control what they're doing. So like, that's something where another part of my life where I've had to start like white knuckling so hard and just kind of letting be what's be. But another part of this was I didn't like the way things were going, and I stopped doing things, which was a very, like, again, deep breath moment for me, because normally I want to take action. And in that moment, the action was to stop taking action and just kind of sit in it. And then, I mean, like, when your central nervous system is on high alert for so long, when you finally let it breathe, you crash. And I crashed for 6 months. Excessive amounts of sleep, rest, not a lot of energy. And that was hard for me because I was such a go, go, go kind of person. I have a very low energy personality, but action wise, I was always so even sometimes the action is no action, and just sitting in where you're at and taking it all in and just sitting with it, which was something that, of course, I had in my tool belt, but I'd never effectively used.
Well, and it's also not really modeled anywhere either. Like just fast-paced society, go, go, go. I mean, quick fixes for everything, especially if you got the money for it. And so just being still is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like turning off the noise so you can be with the thing that you're avoiding. Who wants to do that? And yet, if you don't, it catches up to you at some point.
Yeah.
Your body will tell you that if you're not willing to listen, I mean, I've had this experience, like, your body will tell you it's time, and make make sure that you do. Yeah. So what a shift in pace. Like I hear people say, work hard, play hard. I'm like, work hard, rest hard. That's my new playground.
Work mildly, rest mildly.
Yeah, let's change up all the extremes here and maybe not make them.
Yeah, but in our society, everything is so extreme. Everything is, and I used to be a very hard right, hard left, hard black, hard white, like individual. Like I used to be all or nothing in everything.
Yeah.
And I've become a gray. I've become a very and it's just so, I can't explain how, like, just relaxing, how peaceful it is in the gray. Like, join me in the gray.
There's like grace and just, like wiggle room. Like you said, this shit ain't that deep. Like,
but the gray isn't profitable, like for marketing in most, in most industries, the gray is not very marketable because it's not very sexy. It's not very exciting, like hardcore, hard pace, high
There's
intensity.
A sense of urgency there. I need this now.
Yeah. And so it's hard when everything in our society is telling you go hard or go home, it's hard to just go home. Like it's okay to just go home. Like
turn inward. Like that's the home. Trust that. Yeah. I hear so many examples of, and this might be a takeaway for anyone listening here too, of, just to question, take a little audit of all of the places where you're doing something kind of automatic as like, this is how it is. Like, got to get my 8 glasses of water in a day, which like maybe we do. Right. But like just through that mentality, then it's a checklist and a should and a if I don't, I'm a bad person. Where like, if we just took that out and drank when we're thirsty, maybe you drink even more water. It's all the process with it. So maybe checking in to see where there's some rules you're subscribing to or some automatics that maybe are just really ingrained and might actually be creating an urgency or a heaviness or that shame, judgment that's dragging us down or taking us out of being present. Or it's like, because life is right now. Life is right now. Yeah.
And we don't know how much of it we have left either. For us to be doing so much, trying to make the ideal future that we're just totally negating the present is just, makes me sad.
I was gonna say it's sad. It's sad. Well, Linz, part of this, the show is called May We Know Them, so that we're introduced to strong women, like clearly you. Hi, you're a strong woman. So this is, for you to share your story, but also like, we know we don't get here alone. So who else has supported you? Anybody we should know about? Like, is there somebody we need to go follow on social media right now or stalk their YouTube, or who do we need to know?
So a fitness coach or wellness, I'm gonna call her wellness coach, a wellness coach that I worked with. And I worked with her during the really not so great parts of my life, but then came back around to her. She was teaching all the right things. I just wasn't taking in what she was teaching. I was not sponging. Like it just wasn't, like my sponge still had the plastic on it, I hadn't taken the plastic off yet. Taylor Dove, she's on Instagram. I think she's Tay Dove, but she's the Dove method. I have to dig in my brain, but we'll link it.
Follow up. Yeah, I'll link it. Yep.
But she does like overall, like she only works with females. But it's very holistic, overall rounded wellness. And she does a lot with like vitamins and hormone. She's big on hormone balance, which was a huge thing for me too. She does nutrition stuff, but most of the nutrition stuff is not based around restricting. It's based around like evening out all of our levels within our body, hormone levels, things like that. And then her workouts are just very like not super high intensity, like mainstream stuff, just very simple, like move your body, improve these things, so she is fantastic. And then one of my other really good friends just started one of her own businesses. Her name's Holly Scott. She works in like esthetician, so like Botox, things like that. But she's also just someone who has stuck with me through pretty much everything in life. We call each other like our crisis friends, where if anything ever goes sideways, we're the first people we go to, even if we haven't been talking. But she's Holly Scott, and she's based out of Georgia, so she only does aesthetics in Georgia. But you know, if you're ever in the area and want something done, go to her. But then also can't follow her on social media because she doesn't really use it. My mom is also, she's on this call, she's also one of my #1 supporters in everything in life. And she's been with me through it all. Because that's another thing is there are people in my family and people from my childhood who only ever see me as the version of myself that I was in my late teens, early 20s. And they probably only ever will see me as that girl, unfortunately, and love the girl she was, love me for who I was. But there are people like my mom who have grown with me through it and still see me for who I am now and appreciate who I am now because they've seen from where I came before. And same thing with the 2 other ladies on this call, my cousin and my friend that are on here, have really stuck with me through some messiness.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a lot of people to appreciate, but yeah.
It's beautiful. I think sometimes we do this kind of work and it gets messy, like, and this is because of that, you know, it's this judgment sandwich. Like, we don't want to be a burden or, you know, embarrassed to show up as we are. And yet, us doing this work and us getting supported on this kind of work, like being a little out loud with it or bringing people into our circle, can actually be a really transformative experience for other people too.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for not doing it alone, girl.
I appreciate everybody who didn't let me do it alone.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. Yeah.
All of the above.
Sure.
I just want to say I'm very proud of you.
Next one.
For sure. For sure. Oh, good feels. Oh, that like brought tears in my eyes. Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, Lynn, thanks for bringing all of you here. You just like, you're radiating from the inside out, and to be able to do, like, to share, you know, messy parts of your story and still do that. Like, we all go through our things, but if we can look at the things we've gone through and look at where we're at, how that's supported us to get here, like, rather than locking it up in a closet, putting it away, I don't want anybody to know this about me, but actually, like, hey, here's who I am now, and this is a part of it, you know. Really,
It's also like a lot of people ask, like, and of course a lot of people see the external, like social media, stuff like that, so it to them it happened very quickly. Or people that I only see every couple months see this like very drastic, dramatic change very quickly. And people will come to me and ask questions like, you know, like, what have you been, and people don't want to hear that. I like, what I want to say is, well, I gave up all this stuff for 6 months. I went in deep therapy for a year. And I basically stripped myself completely down to the bone and then built myself back up. But that's not what people want to hear.
They want a link.
Yeah. They're like, what pill bottle do I buy? What powder do I drink? What, you know, what wrap do I put on my body? And that's just not.
That's more the external. Like, tell me the thing outside of myself to fix me, when really it's like, we just gotta go home.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go home and pick my berries. Like, that's what I've been doing. That's what I did.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Lynn, so happy that you were able to join us today. Thanks for your courage in sharing all of it. We'll also link where people can follow you and see what you're doing and everything. And for all of our guests who are on here live, thank you for holding space for this conversation and creating good energy and jumping in and contributing. For anyone listening to replay or recording, let's keep this conversation going. Like, hop in a comment, share what stood out to you. I think Lindsey, who's in her 20s, just brought a lot of wisdom for all of us, which is how, like, that's how I've known you, like, as the past 5 years. Like, gosh, the knowledge on this girl, the wisdom. I hope you all are really present to the gift of this conversation and the gift of Lindsey and what she shared today. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted when there's another episode. Come on back, hang out with us, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Megan. You're great. Thank you.